Liverpool absolutely pummeled Manchester United in the first meeting between the two giants of English football this Sunday. Jurgen Klopp's men were in ruthless form, putting 5 past a hapless David De Gea as Ole Gunnar Solskjaer watched his side unravel in front of an Old Trafford crowd that started leaving the stadium at half-time. If you are a United fan, we commend you for showing so much courage watching a team systematically dismantled as if it was a Sunday League team, with most of the players treating football as a part-time gig. This was a bit of a football lesson for the ages. What could have been better than watching a matchup between two of the most successful teams in English football history at a time where the Queen normally likes to have her cup of tea? She's had that routine for more than 50 years, but we're sure that not even Her Majesty expected the game to be this one-sided. The long-awaited duel, always touted as a poster game of the season, didn't take place at all. In fact, the visitors imposed their will against a Man United side that, truth be told, has been getting away from having their derrieres beaten all shades of red since the beginning of the campaign. Perhaps a 5-0 scoreline doesn't even fully justify how good Liverpool were, and how abysmal Man United were throughout the 90 minutes. Those who didn't watch the game would understandably be surprised to see that the first big chance of the match fell to Bruno Fernandes, who missed what should be called an absolute sitter. From then on, it was all Liverpool, dominating the game like they've been doing since the start of the campaign. This game was one of the most chaotic performances we've seen from a losing side. While Norwich also conceded 7 goals at the weekend against Chelsea, the newly promoted side gets a free pass because their offensive line isn't led by a 5-time Ballon d'Or winner, and their defenders didn't just get back from playing a European Championship final. This Sunday was the ultimate fantasy for every sports fan. Of course, 1 billion people watched arch-rivals Pakistan and India take on each other in a cricket game where the former won, but there were so many big games in Europe. Barcelona took on Real Madrid in the first Clasico of the season. Le Classique was played out in France between Paris Saint-Germain and Olympique de Marseille. Back in Italy, Inter Milan hosted Juventus, so it was a Sunday where we could all ignore those around us and just focus on football. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to our channel, hit the bell icon, and sound off in the comments. Since his career at Arsenal hasn't worked out, a lot of people have ruled out the chances of William Saliba ever making it big in the Premier League. This season, Marseille have had a rather precarious balance. They certainly score a lot of goals, but they also concede quite a few. So obviously, when we saw that they were ready to host PSG at the Velodrome, we feared for Jorge Sampaoli. The Parisians have not lost to the Rhone Giants in the last 10 years, but this time around, the star-studded attacking quartet of Angel Di Maria, Kylian Mbappe, Neymar and Lionel Messi was unable to produce the right notes. For Marseille, the defence was sturdy, if that's the right word. Saliba was phenomenal at the back, nullifying Messi and Mbappe at the same time, while making sure that his positional play was spot on. In fact, PSG were extremely lucky to get out of Marseille with a point, especially after Achraf Hakimi was given his marching orders after almost an hour played. Marseille had tons of chances, but their front line didn't make it count. However, Saliba's performances showed that the youngster is more than just ready to return to Arsenal once his loan in France ends, and when he does, let's hope that Arteta's opinion of the young Frenchman changes for good. At Camp Nou, Barcelona welcomed Real Madrid for the 246th Clasico between the two sworn enemies. This was a special encounter given the fact that it was played without Lionel Messi on the field after a very long time. Both teams have had unconvincing starts to their campaigns, so the onus was on both of them to get the right result that might propel their campaign in the right direction. Carlo Ancelotti opted for a rather adventurous 4-3-3 formation, with Karim Benzema leading the front line, ably supported by the midfield trio of Luka Modric, Casemiro and Toni Kroos. Ronald Koeman also went for a similar formation, so we forgive you for expecting a sparring session between the two sides. Once the referee blew his whistle, Madrid had won the game 2-1, and you can't say they didn't deserve to. David Alaba scored the opening goal of the game and was defensively strong throughout the 90 minutes, marshalling his area and not prepared to give anything away. Sergio Aguero did score his first goal for the club late in injury time, but it was a mere consolation for a side that still got lots of work to do. It's hard to say that Ronald Koeman will not come out looking weak after a morale-jarring defeat, and while it isn't right to kick a man while he's down, his comments won't please fans. The Dutch tactician felt that the result was satisfactory since they had a great first half. That's not a great look for a manager whose future at the club is already under constant threat. The Manchester United fans who left Old Trafford at the hour mark maybe shouldn't be criticised, because who would want to watch a team that plays boring, crappy, soulless football? The 5-0 defeat against their bitter rivals proved that this United side is nowhere near good enough to go the distance when it comes to winning trophies. The humiliating defeat poses more questions than answers towards Solskjaer, who looked shell-shocked and watched his team unravel from the dugout. But this defeat had been coming for long. The Norwegian tactician has been criticised for a long time by the press, and fans have also lost their patience. However, is the latest thrashing the last straw that broke the camel's back? He got away with it during the win over Villarreal. Then he got away with it in the 3-2 win over Atalanta. Before the exciting game against the Italians, Man United had lost 4-2 to Leicester City. The signs were always there. We've been saying for ages that United's midfield duo of Scott McTominay and Fred is going to hold them back. The two men offer nothing going forward, and when it comes to quick distribution, these two take too much time to come to a decision. Harry Maguire, on the other hand, looks like a player who's having a hard time quickly passing the ball to a teammate, even if they're screaming at his face. On top of that, his levels of agility are quite laughable, and he was once again found out and exposed by a Liverpool side that's so good at carving up defences that it should be considered criminal. The manner in which this United side conceded most of the goals was unacceptable. Mohamed Salah had acres of space before he passed the ball to Naby Keita. The second goal was a perfect example of how to mark your zones, and maybe both Luke Shaw and Fred need to figure out why they were so bad at spatial awareness. And then Harry Maguire decided to make things hard for Shaw and almost fouled his own teammate in the build-up to the third goal. That particular incident made us chuckle, and also proved what many people have been saying for months, that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is not good enough to lead this side and should no longer be taken as an elaborate scheme to rub United fans the wrong way. The Norwegian tactician was totally out of his depth and no longer looks capable of turning things around the way that he used to during his first 2 years at the club. Now, Ronaldo's not the sort of player who would ever lead a player revolt, but the Portuguese forward's body language throughout the game showed just how disgusted he was at the way the game panned out. The former Real Madrid man is rarely accustomed to being part of a side that gets thrashed like that, so you can understand his frustration. He was already angry at his teammates following the 4-2 defeat to Leicester, so you can only imagine the sort of storm that was raging inside him as he saw his teammates concede goals in such poor fashion. Of course, Ronaldo is never going to say anything to the media or address his frustrations, but after spending more than a decade on top and playing under managers who are tactically smart, the legendary forward will be thinking that the club can do way better than his former teammate. The 36-year-old is clearly not the sort of player who was going to do everything on his own, and now he's in the midst of a setup where the team's offensive line struggles to create any decent openings because the transition from defense and attack is slowed down due to the absence of a world-class midfielder. Maybe Ronaldo knew the defeat was coming as he shook his head in disbelief following a goal that was disallowed. His current manager has done a fairly decent job, but now that the club needs to be as good as the likes of Liverpool, City and Chelsea, they need an upgrade. While the manager himself would never hand in his resignation, maybe it's time for him to reconsider his position at the club and simply walk away while his prestige as one of the club's favourite sons is still intact.